If you want to play, you know, and stand up there and play, man, you can't do it with a music stand and a bunch of notes in front of you. You got to do it from here and here, and the experience and being willing to take a chance.
All right, this episode is with the legendary tenor saxophonist Pete Christlieb. Pete's sound has graced some of the most iconic recordings in jazz and popular music. He spent a couple decades with the Tonight Show band with Doc Severinsen and performed and recorded with everybody, including Count Basie, Louis Bellson, Warne, Marsh. And it's probably best known for his work with Steely Dan, playing the solo on Deacon Blues and playing the solo on Unforgettable with Natalie Cole. And his career spans straight-ahead jazz and studio work with the biggest names in music. And Pete Christlieb continues to inspire with his artistry and legacy. Here's my conversation with the legend. Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
Welcome. It's such...
How's the family?
The family is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad says hello. Mom says hello. I told him, I think I talked to him yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
And they were excited that you're going to be here.
Yeah, well, you know.
And Dad said to ask you about all the, about the drag racing.
Oh.
And he said, you got to ask him about that stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll start there.
Well, okay. Well, I got off Woody's band. It was, the first time, you go on the road. My first band was right out of, I went to Valley College, out in, off of Fulton.
Yeah.
Out there.
Yeah, like Van Nuys.
Yeah, and
in L.A.
The famous, Bob McDonald was the band teacher there, and he was responsible for Bob Florence, and I think Mike Barone was in that band, and George Graham was in that band, and all these people that I ended up working with when I got there out of high school.
Was George there and Bob? Were they all there at the same time when you were going?
No, they were. By the time I got there, they had all graduated out of there, and Bob had written that arrangement up a lazy river for Cy Zentner, and he was, he launched that band, and it was probably, he had an extensive book, and he probably was beginning on writing his 1,000 tunes,
Yeah.
At that time. But when I got there, Bob was there for one semester, and it was interesting because I eventually I got a call to go on the road, and it was after Bob had moved to he moved down to the college, L.A. City College.
Mm.
And that was on Vermont, I think. God, amazing! I can remember that. You get off freeway, turn right.
Right.
And so I was there, and then I was there just long enough to get a phone call as to going out on the road and playing of the band. And up to that point, as soon as I got out of junior high school, I was just looking forward to playing. I wasn't looking forward to homework and other things. I wanted to just play my horn, So I went out. I left there and I went on the road, and that's where the life's experience began.
Yeah. And what was that first road gig with?
It was with the Cy Zentner band.
Oh, okay.
And
was Bob Florence traveling with you?
No, he was a lot smarter than that. you know. Riding on a bus, when you're 18, you're 16, 17, 18 years old or something like that. Traveling on a bus is pretty rough because sometimes you just go and go and go, and you don't even check in, you know. Then they call it's one-nighters, you know. So that went, I think about a year I was on that band. And it seemed like more
all
than
domestic
that.
In the States, like you're on a bus doing all this?
Back and forth.
Okay.
I played all these places because we were doing mostly dance kinds of things. Woody's band was more of a jazz, on-stage jazz band. You know, that came later. I think I went from Cy's band to Woody's band.
What do you think you picked up from playing dance music, musically, you know, that shaped your voice?
One of the things I noticed that, you know, it's an art form, a great dance band and great arrangements for dance bands is kind of a school or an art form of its own, you know, swinging, making people, you know, get people to jump up and shout, you know, and that's why I enjoy a lot of those old things that I had arranged for my 10, 11-piece band that I had, you know, some of those old monster swing charts, you know, where everybody was just swinging, you know. And so anyway, I went.
And part of the goal, right, is to get everybody up and
going,
yeah.
Right? You know, some of these places we played, you get off a bus and you play, you know, we're at this famous old, out in the Midwest, it looked like a Victorian house or something, but it was a dance hall, and you go in the back, and in the back of where you get your cases, and you put your cases and, you know, put your coat on. There's signatures all on the wall of all the famous bands that have been here, and guys that you could see, you know, somebody's signature that you recognize, you know. And I don't know if we signed or not. At any rate, that was one part of it. And then just being, you know, on a band, playing every night. And things, another thing, sometimes you'd be playing, and one of the guys in the band was late on his alimony payments, and two guys in white coats came up and grabbed him and dragged him off the bandstand. What was that, you know?
Next player up.
Yeah, you know. And so we got to Las Vegas, and with Cy's band. And I met, here's why, you know, you meet people, and it's wild that a lot of people that I grew up listening to and idolized, a lot of them I ended up playing with.
Wow.
Which is, you know, a mystery, but also wonderful that I was able to actually show them that I was listening, you know. Well, the first music I heard, you know, was Chet Baker and Jerry Mulligan. At that time, I was playing the violin when I started, about 6 or 7, and then when I got into junior high school, I had heard some records and Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker, and I said, well, what a thrill. I mean, they're making up their own music, and it sounds like they're really happy and fun to do, and I'd like to do that, you know. Anyway, I'll get back to that.
6 or 7, right?
That was when I was, you know, in high school, you're about 12, 13, 14, maybe 13, 14.
Do you still remember which records really made those first impacts for you?
Well, that was, you know, because of Chet Baker and Jerry Mulligan, the melodicism, Chet was so melodic. I actually, when I got to work with him, and
I know.
I wrote a song. It's called "You're Nobody Until Chet Baker Owes You," because he stiffed us in Pueblo, Colorado, and took all the money, and we all had to, I had to call home, hi Mom, oh yeah, it's going okay, but
So
I need some money,
So had you played a bit on the tour before that happened?
Oh
Or you
yeah,
just-
played 2 weeks.
Oh,
And it was sensational, playing with Chet. Actually, I missed the point that I played with. I met Chet in L.A. because somebody said, "Would you like to?" This Chet Baker is playing. You're going to play with Chet, and it was in a little club on Century Boulevard, the one that leads to the L.A. airport, and it was a little strip club. And of course, we got there and you had to play for a stripper first, which was kind of something new, And then we got on the stand, and I think Ray Brown was the bass player, and Terry Trotter was the piano player. And the drummer, Colin Bailey.
no kidding.
Colin, Colin was
just-
wonderful. He was
for
a
reference-
gifted comedian kind of guy. He could just do things, with his face, and kind of like Charlie Callis. Charlie Callis, he was on television all the time, and he started out as a drummer, but he comicked his way right into something big.
What year
But I
do you
remember,
think that might
oh
have been?
God, that
Like,
was 69, 70,
Okay.
something like that.
so later.
Maybe 71. But we actually got paid. I remember that Ray Brown had a career with Oscar Peterson, and he leaned into the drummer all the time. He was leaning on the time, pushing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to. It was being on top of the beat is standard, but putting 400 horsepower behind it and trying to push the drummer right out of the room. Colin stopped playing, and he got in his face one night. I heard a bam, the sticks hitting it. God, tell me how to play, Buster, And so then that was over, and then we played with Chet. But it wasn't like being in Colorado. It was nothing like being in Colorado, because I have a few of the tapes that my drummer made of us playing in Colorado. And it was different because Chet was so lyrical. I actually heard him play one night. I play a whole chorus in one breath, because of his he got something going, and he was not willing to give up a breath to cut it off, and apparently he had enough wind to get from, maybe it was a blues, or maybe it was something. It wasn't, a 40-bar tune, anyway, and the natural lyricism. It was something that later I really appreciate it. Later in life, I was still kicking dirt on the Empire about the Empire, about being stranded out there in the middle of this Colorado thing. But I did have a nice relationship with the people there. The guys on the bandstand and the drummer, Harry, was. We later got together and made an album of our own. At any rate,
How was Chet as a band leader? Was he ever?
He never
giving
read
you-
anything, so he called the tunes. And if
Right.
I had a tune that I wanted to play, just like the same as with Buddy Rich. Buddy Rich never read, but he could. He had a photographic When you play it for him once, and it's there. I mean, with Chet, I'd play the melody, and he'd get the melody down, and we already knew the changes because a lot of it were standard changes from standard tunes anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Says a lot that he was open though to
Yeah.
learning new music to
sure.
play and
well,
and honoring you too.
He
must
knew
have loved
he
you.
was he was among friends and felt safe, comfortable with the whole thing. You know, it's way different when the guy you're playing with is a monster, national treasure kind of player, and there's some mutual thing here, and so I could give him some energy, and he gave me a lot of energy, and it was only till later when we realized that the bartender said, well, he's gone, and he drew $150 across the bar, and I don't know where he is, and we're going, oh boy. So but later on, I realized after hearing, the tapes and stuff that it was still a great musical experience, and there was something it was worth the money, tenfold, Well, after that, but the band thing we were talking about, getting off a size band, I was in Vegas. And Vegas was another culture altogether. There was so much music going on in Vegas at that time. They had a union hall and people could go down there, and I think they even had a bar in the union hall. I never was ever to, there was a restaurant, an Italian restaurant in town where they had a great big banquet room, and everybody who was writing music, and a lot of guys who knew how to make an extra buck were writing a lot of music for the shows, and things like that. And so they had their own bands. So when I went to work in Vegas, that's what you did after hours. The guy says, come on, can you play in a band tonight? So at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're playing with a band, in this place. And, but on my band, you know who I'm talking about. My band, I was there with, at that time, I was there, I had finished my gig with Cy, and then I went back to LA, and then I went back to Vegas because it was a gig, Hey, here, we got a gig. It was a Della Reese and a small group, and the tenor player was Jimmy Forrest, old-time Jim, who actually was credited with Night Train was his tune.
Is that right?
He actually wrote the tune. What I've been led to believe was Jimmy Forrest. And he was he had that old time, style. You could hear the chord. The old guys, when they played, you could hear the whole chord.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, the way they build a chorus, you quote the chord, you'd start here and you go through the third and up through the seventh, over the ninth, and 11th, the 12th, the 19th, and then you come back down again through all this, coming the other direction. It sounds a little bit different when you move this over here and move that over there. Technically, I couldn't tell you for sure, but I mean, if you want to play, and stand up there and play, man, you can't do it with a music stand and a bunch of notes in front of you. You got to do it from here and here, and the experience and being willing to take a chance. And that's what I've always, maintained, that I wasn't satisfied with taking a solo like in the Tex Beneke days when everybody goes through that period where you say to yourself, now if I have to hear or play In the Mood one more time, I think I'll go nuts, because everybody had to do something like that, especially in high school and stuff like that. And I played on a Miller band in L.A. I played on a Miller band, and it's so much for chronological order, but my first time in Vegas, I was playing with a small group with a guy who wrote String of Pearls and In the Mood, Jerry Gray, pudgy guy, he had a crew cut. He wrote a tune called Crew Cut. He wrote, and we played his music, Glenn Miller music, and we were downtown and Fremont Club or something, whatever. Mm-hmm. 6 hours of dance music. I never worked so hard all my life. My face still hurts. 5 minutes off, and 90 minutes on. I mean, wow. Yeah. And in walks Tex Beneke, and he says, "Young man, I'm going to take you down after work." And he was playing on the Strip, and I got to meet the guys in Tex Beneke's band, and the act in front of it was Peggy Lee, and her piano player was Lou Levy, and I ended up playing in L.A. with Lou Levy. He's on my album, and I was on his album. I mean,
and Peggy Lee too, right?
Peggy Lee was great,
I mean, you played with Peggy Lee.
I didn't get that honor.
Oh no?
No. I was just sitting there at that time. I was just sitting there without a horn or anything. I was just listening to the Miller Band and the Modern Airs.
Okay.
And eventually, when Tex came to L.A. to do a gig, I got a call, and I actually played with the Tex Beneke Band. The one thing I noticed, what I was trying to say, was that every solo that he played on a record, he had to play that solo every time they played the tune. It was expected of you to. The people wanted to hear that solo.
That solo.
Because it was part of that record.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to skate that responsibility for a long time. And then many, many years later, I did that solo when I was doing an album with Johnny Mandel. We did the Unforgettable with Natalie, and it was a monster project because there must have been 24 tunes on that CD. It seems like, and there were 4 or 5 different writers, but I did the Mandel sessions because my uncle, the doctor, they went to school together, my Uncle Ralph, and they had same birthday together. And that's how we met, and I heard me play, and I got to play in his band, But talk about a wonderful experience.
But then are you saying that when you would play that Unforgettable solo, you would be expected to play it the same way?
What happened, yes. Yeah, I had. I was like,
does
wow,
that go against
it finally
whole...
caught up with me, And one night, we were at the Greek Theater. Instead of doing, because we did the Unforgettable show, where they drop the screen, and there's Nat singing, and then she sings. Mm-hmm. It's part of the visual thing, and then I stand up and so they wrote that solo out, and everybody calls me from everywhere, all over I played your solo. It's written out here,
Mm-hmm.
You ever had somebody transcribe your solo off a record, and you look at it and you say, "God, I can't read that. There's so many notes, I can't make heads or tails
can't read
of
it nor play it."
Yeah, So, all that was a giant boot camp of learning and experiences and things like that, and.
Well, I was asking about that because I love what you said about playing with and from the heart, because You absolutely do, and you feel every note when you play it. I mean, that's always been my experience when I hear you play, and
I had help.
and that experience of, and of course we all have that, but the experience of learning how to get people up off the dance floor, and learning a bit of that commercialism, about music that's real. That you can actually affect people in such a positive way, but it's also important to reach them. And the value that you're putting on the way that Jerry Mulligan would play and Chet Baker, this melodicism, that is the embodiment of how I've always heard you play. So, I'm kind of leading the questions because I see that's a lot of that influence there, and in creating your preferences, perhaps.
Right. A lot of that might be due to the people that you listen to. One of the biggest influences as far as energy and melodicism and absolute perfection would be Cannonball. I heard in different recordings and things that he, his energy and his ferocity,
and the sound,
he's
right?
Man, and he just charges right in. And I went to Shelley's Manhole, and I was just maybe not quite old enough to be in the club, but my father worked in the studios a lot and Shelley. Shelley knew I was aspiring, and he said, "Bring the kid. Let the kid come in." And I went in and I sat there, and I listened to him play in awe. It's like he could have been. He could have been 9 feet tall. That's what it was. Wow, man, can he? But can he go? And after the set, I walked right to the back of the, and they're putting their horns on the thing and taking a break, and I walked up to him. Man, when I grow up, I'm gonna play just like you, man. And he looked up at me, and a big smile on his face. He was so wonderful to people, and he was like the greatest deacon preacher in the world. I make you feel good, young man, he says. First of all, he says, you look just like Don Drysdale. Remember the pitcher for the Dodgers?
I don't.
Yeah,
I
he
know
was a
the
famous
name,
ball player.
Yeah.
One of the great Hall of Fame ball players.
Okay.
And everybody's laughing. The guys are on the floor. He says, okay, Don Drysdale, enough of that. He says, I'll bet you're a good player. And so I thanked him and everything. And several years later, at least, for me to go from there to playing in a band, playing in Quincy Jones's band on stage with we were in San Francisco, and there's a tune that I get to play on in there, one of Quincy's charts on Manteca. Do da 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 and da 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 da. Now play, Well, I get up and I play and then it's over, and then there's a voice from the back of the auditorium. He says, "Hey, Don Drysdale." He says, "I knew you could play."
Wow.
I got goosebumps all over me, man. I could hardly play. I was thinking, oh my God, there he is. My hero,
How did he remember that?
Oh, well, some things like that you can't forget, man.
I remember you remember that, but how did he remember that?
Oh, well,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you were just a kid, right?
Right. Well, no, I was, it took a while to get there, to go from being a wannabe to actually an almost wannabe, just between the other side of wannabe and, let's get to it, and So a lot of stuff has happened. 60 years have happened between that, you know. Christ, I'm going to be 80 pretty soon. Anyway, the road ended, and then started the career that was split between playing with, you know, I mean, the last road band I was on before it all, you know, turned around, and now I'm playing in a television show at CBS with, I was right when I got off the road. I was with Louis Belson's bands for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Louis was like, it was unusual to have a band leader who wasn't a disciplinarian kind of character, you know, egomania, disciplinarian, prison guard. Yeah, they could be like that, you know. Harry James wasn't. Woody Herman was a man of indifference. He'd been on the road so many years. He just needed, it was his way of getting out of the house. And in fact, he never even rode on the bus anymore. He had a Corvette or something that he drove and met the band, you know. But this was different, you know. And so when I got off the road finally and everything, I was sitting around the house and I got this call. And somebody you know and I know, one of my favorite musicians and we've known each other for forever. We were in a kids band together. Tom Scott, you know, brilliant player, writer. And his father was a writer. Remember that? His father was Nathan. He wrote the score for the Lassie show. Yeah, was one of those things. Maybe a lot more, for sure. Yeah. At any rate,
and Tom is brilliant.
Yes,
like, truly brilliant.
Yeah. Anyway, I did the Glenn Campbell show, and guess who was the conductor? It was Marty Page. And this was the Glenn Campbell's show was basically a custard and a custard. It was a country and western, mostly country and western flavor kind of show, because Hee Haw was going on at the same time, and all these great country players were upstairs, guys who played country guitar. And the first time I realized that these guys are playing country, but they could swing. They had a way they could break out into a swing, and Buck Owens and these guys, Jerry Reed, they could all just swing.
Yeah, the feel was
being around those guys. But then I was in that kind of situation for a while, because it was, hey, people ask you, how do you, very, business-like PhD kind of people. They had a big conference, and they said, how do you, well, we create a product, but we do it from cerebrally communicating with each other. And the language is simply, you play, and the norm is to do this, and then the piano player takes it. And then after that, it automatically goes from committee to the bass player, and then his committee sends it on to the drummer, and then boom, boom, boom. And so how do you explain that? I mean, I said, play horn, get check. And they laughed. These guys, these PhD guys, they laughed. They were on the floor laughing for about 10 minutes. And finally, but that sums it up. They take all this business stuff and this is how we do it. And we do it without paper, without machines, without secretaries, with all this stuff, we just, and it's done,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It is an interesting thing, right? And I just even just observing my dad doing all those variety shows and all the record dates and all the movie stuff and all that.
And he went through the same thing I did.
I just, with it, absolutely. I mean, within that, how do you keep that edge for yourself as a musician, and are you still practicing? I mean, of course, you're still learning and growing as you're doing all this stuff, and you're learning people skills, you're learning all that side of the business, but even just musically, I'm just curious if you were still practicing and pushing yourself. I'm sure you still are.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
I'm fighting an inactivity situation brought on mostly by COVID being responsible for closing jazz clubs in my area, because I moved out of LA a long time ago, 8-10 years ago, moved to Washington, because one of my best friends had a band, a 10-11 piece band, and his co-partner in the band was the writer, and they had wonderful charts and gigs, and I was teaching, thanks to Bud Shank. I was teaching at the Bud Shank Jazz Camp, Centrum Jazz Camp, which Bud was the main, the kahuna, actually. He was he oversees the camp and all the people he brings in to people. So-and-so does trombones, and so-and-so Pete Christlieb does the tenors, and Bill Ramsey, my friend, he was doing baritones, and Kim Richmond was there doing altos, and Joe LaBarbera, one of my favorite drummers. Oh, man.
The best.
Wonderful. Really comfortable and always right there, Joe. He was doing percussion and drums, and then they had vocal, and they had everything. But it was always one of those things that would happen every year, because in July, most of the commercial work is on hiatus.
Right.
And so you need a gig, and this gig paid, I guess it started out paying about $1,500 for the week, which was better than no $1,500 and sitting around the house going, what's going on, So, but I got to meet a lot of people up there. And then after the Centrum, I'd go down to Seattle and or Tacoma and play with bands and meet people. And then eventually I moved there, and played. But then came COVID, and things kind of were on hold, So it's been kind of a fight to, because of other responsibilities of just taking care of a piece of property that's way bigger than you should have owned when you're this age, spend more time with a weed eater in your hand than a saxophone.
I see.
I mean, I suppose you could afford to hire somebody to do that, but it would be astronomical. 5 acres of weeds. What was I thinking? I could say that to myself. What was I thinking? Like you're not going to get old and not want to do this anymore. Anyway, it's gone full circle, because out of the necessity, we have started up our band again. We have a 10-piece. It's like almost like the size of the Jerry Mulligan concert band.
Yeah.
And that's all, folks. I have a whole box of the charts from the Jerry Mulligan, Brookmeyer charts. Brookmeyer charts are great, Mulligan charts, Alcone charts. For that combination, what an exciting band that was to listen to on record. The Vanguard thing with Clark Terry and Mulligan, and great. What was his name? Nick Travis, who was the lead and jazz player in that band. Wonderful. You know, so much talent. And Mel Lewis, you know, what was his nickname, but he had that big Chinese cymbal that he could, when he starts cooking that thing, the time just goes, shoom, bang, it makes you want to play, you know. And so we started calling our band, because we got a gig on Monday nights. I call it the Vanguard Revival Band. Hey, yeah, you know.
Amazing.
Wild, you know, that when I was in New York, before a lot of things happened, I went to New York with to do something with Joe Roccasano, who was living in my back house down here for a long time, and he moved to New York, and I went to see him, and I stayed with him because I was in town working with Louis Belson and in a club in New York, and we went. It's my first time, you know. You see the Vanguard on a record, you never get the ambience of the whole thing anyway. So I went downstairs, and there's this dingy jazz history right there, you know, with and you get to hear Thad, and Snooky Young was playing lead. And it was before he moved out to California, ended up on The Tonight Show. Yeah. You know, and all the great players in that band.
And you had to have overlapped, right? When Snooky was on the band, you were on the band as well, right?
Yeah. Well, he decided to. When Tonight Show moved out, I had played a few times with the Tonight Show band when the Tonight Show did a thing. They left New York, went on on this thing where they would do a week or two in Hollywood. I mean, you look at the way it went. Jackie Gleason would go from New York to Florida, here, Miami, right? A place called the Fontainebleau, right? I don't know if it's there or not anymore. Probably not, huh?
Probably not.
Yeah, you know.
On to the next.
No more fun. You know. So, anyway, so that's how I got to do the show a couple of weeks at a time. And then when they decided to come out for good, I was lucky enough to get it. Because, you know, can you imagine? I mean, the reality of it is, do you imagine wanting to play jazz all your life? We want to be a jazz player, and getting a gig where you could stand up and play because they need you to fill a slot, because just before Johnny comes back from a commercial, there's this space, and something has to happen. It can't be a bunch of guys playing at the same time. It's got to be somebody blowing right there so they can cut it off when Johnny, we're back now and commercials are over and bam. So I got that. I got to play. People say, oh man, I used to listen to you on The Tonight Show, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be playing today. And I said, I'm so sorry. How can I help? Would you like some money or something? You know, maybe you get a good job.
Well, you know, I saw an interview with Donald Fagen and Walter Becker, and they were saying that because of that, they heard you play on one of those breaks, and that's why they invited you to play in Asia.
That's how that happened. Yes. Yeah.
So you knew about that. I mean, that's why they thought of it. You know who was
responsible for the success of that album that I played on was Tom.
I was going to just guess it had to be in Tom, yeah.
Charts and everything. I just went in and did a solo. You know, I didn't know them. I mean, I walked in to the studio. They said, Tonight Show's over at 6. We went from 5 or 5:30 to 6:30, something like that.
Right.
1 hour. Then you go out, and in those days, Dante's was happening. You go over to Dante's, or you go over where you work, Baked Potato, right? You go back there and fire up your band.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we...
I bet the guys are great. Man, he's coming to town. We got a gig.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Ooh, gig.
Yeah. It's so wonderful because we get to do these 4-night residencies there with a big band.
Yeah.
You know, 3 times a year. And that's...
Oh, man.
That's amazing.
That's happening. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know that I mean, just by hearing you play on the Tonight Show band, then it led to to that. And
I played one. I did one take on that thing
on Deacon's Blues.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Well,
I mean,
that's an anomaly because everybody tells me, man, I played about 30 solos until I hated that tune. Man, it gets that way when you get. I can't think of any more things to play on this. And
well, I mean, they were notorious, right, for doing 1,000 takes until they got that one little thing that they were.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I got. How did I escape the beating?
Well, as the song says, you played what you feel, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what the song was.
Yeah.
Learn to work saxophone, play what I feel.
Yeah.
Drink Scotch whiskey all night long and die behind the wheel. I thought they were talking about me because I was racing cars. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I started driving my when I got off the road, I was kind of disillusioned because Woody was so crass, and the band that he had was nothing like the band that I played with when I first played with them in Hollywood, and then they were going to go on the road. We played a club that Buddy Rich had. He and his band opened the door. It was a club in West Hollywood called the Shea. And then we were next. And I had all the records. I hadn't played with the band now. But Joe Farrell was leaving the band. This is that gig I was telling you about when I was in Las Vegas with Della Reese. Well, Buddy Childers was playing with us. And Buddy, this is what I want to ask you, Buddy was if you're a trumpet player and you live through it on Kenton's band, I mean, he beat the trumpet section, they higher, louder, higher. You beat up a trumpet player and they end up with a mellophone in their face. And after they're all broke down, they, well, I can play this thing, because your face is gone, How did Jay, survive that, A will to survive, I quit.
Strong will.
I'm out of here.
Well, I mean, trumpet's one of those instruments, too, where you just keep trying to figure it out all the way through, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, oh, man. Anyway,
well, that brings us full circle.
So then I get to the studio, and I hear the song, and I said, I played one solo, and
so they played it down for you first.
Yes, they did. Okay. I heard the lyrics. I said, "Oh, you're talking about me." Oh yeah. So get the horn out, bam, play a solo. I said, "Hey, it's great, wonderful, So some guy comes over and he hands me $300. They sold 40 million copies. If I had gone for an eighth of a point or something like that, which they wouldn't allow, they'd have got somebody else to do it for $200.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how I made that work was it was just happened that way. People call me, and they say, like they're playing this all over, everywhere you go, you can hear that tune playing in elevators and bathrooms in the airport somewhere in Europe or something. Hey, that's me. Who's that? And so people call and they said, "Could you play a solo like that on our record?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Well, what did they pay you?" And I said, "Oh, $1,500."
And points.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I figured I'm lucky to get the 1,500. But eventually, the popularity of the thing trickles down, and it's on the charts for so long, and then something else comes along. So that there went the $1,500.
I've got a copy of it right there.
No kidding.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if my name's on there.
Let's
you
look.
know what?
I want to see. I know I've got it here somewhere.
Well, you can't miss
Actually,
that
look
cover.
Here, look at this one.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah. Oh, guess who? He ended up D. Barton, and then he what did he play first?
I think
Trombone?
trombone, yeah.
Trombone. Then he said, I want to be a drummer. So why would you want to carry more stuff around than a trombone? All those drums and stuff. Archie Schlepp, you know?
Oh, you know what? I brought it home, actually.
Oh, well, that's cool. All right, we'll go to your house.
Yeah, let's do it.
Grab that mic. Anyway, and we did some other things, you know. We did the next thing that came along. It was Johnny Mandel had written the strings for that movie that they did the soundtrack for. Was called FM.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. I did a solo on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that became pretty popular. You know, later on, then, and I was doing that solo, and I gave him a CD, or actually, I had it wasn't a record yet, but Warne Marsh and I had been working together. Very unique situation because of the demeanor of these two saxophone players who play as far apart as you could imagine, because Warne had studied with Lenny Tristano and became absolutely, totally independent in the way that he could compose a solo by being inharmonically away from this tune, and also at the same time in that mode could be in a different time signature against this time, so another time signature in harmonics, and like interpolation, this way, that, go back and forth like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so many devices happening at the same time, and still be cognizant of where one is every time. And I mean, oh man, he went out here, and one is there, and then he knows, you know, if the bridge comes around or this one, he's there.
Yeah, and the melody, right?
And the melody.
The melody is
yeah.
driven.
So I asked him, because we're doing we were doing our first record together. I had helped my great friend Jim Huart, who was really, I was into race cars. Jim was into recording. He built a place for a studio, and he bought the equipment. And he was putting a studio together, and I was building race cars, and I had a milling machine in my garage, because if you want to be in racing, you have to learn to be self-sufficient, because when you're waiting for people to do something for you, the race has already happened. So you have to be on top of it. And so I got this milling machine and learned how to work a milling machine and play what I feel, drink Scott whiskey, never mind. And I made the board, you know, with the phasers, the sliders, and everything, and the pots and everything. He gave me the diagram, and I made it. I made the holes, the slots, everything. Then I had it anodized black, and boom, fit there. And he started, you know, wiring up, putting the switches and all the stuff in, and it finally got it working. And he had an 8-track. First, it was an 8-track, you know. So we had 8 tracks to work with, and he did his first album with Warne. It's called Worn Out, and Warne on bass and drums, no piano.
Wow.
If it wasn't Lenny or somebody that he knew playing piano. Warne had this thing where he would rather play alone rather than have a piano player be comping, actually telling him basically where to go or boxing him in, you know. So we did our album with 2 tenors and bass and drums. And then here's the part where we take the tune. We'd say, well, we take this tune, we take whatever this tune is, we'll use the changes, and we'll make a whole new melodic structure around it, and it'll be this will be this work, and this will be this tone, this will be that tone, and we renamed the tunes, and we had some funny names, but everybody knows what that tune is, you know. But so we are able to start the tune, like get the rhythms started, you know, and we're like this and playing off of each other, and we really listening to him. And he was listening to me, and I come from here, and he comes from there. So his influence would come from me, and my influence would come from him, and we're improvising it. At one point, doing this whole, it's an anomaly. I mean, boom, we're now, for an instant, reached a point where it was perfect timing, and we are now playing in harmony. Improvising in harmony. It went like this and went like this, like, oh, wow. And it was like, did you hear that? You know, yeah, I was there. Man, do you believe that? Levity, you know.
Yeah.
Wow, it actually happened, you know. A cyclotron or whatever, you know, dimension. We went into another dimension. Poof, you know. Yeah, jazz where you get paid. Oops, forget it, you know. And so Steely Dan said, well, what are you going to do with this? And I said, well, I'm going to put it out. I put my first record out, and, you know, I just sell them off the bandstand. He said, well, we're with Warner Brothers now. Well, oh, boy. Yeah, we could produce this thing. And I said, oh, man. So I said, well, why not, you know? Sure, there's a bandwagon, jump right on it, see? So here we are, Lou Levy and Joe Raccasano and myself with the responsibility of coming up with the material for this project. So I took, with the influence that I got from Warne, my tune, I called it Magnetism, and I had a tape of one of the nights that I was working with Chet, and I made a solo up, and he was playing Just Friends, so I took my solo, and I played. If I played 2 choruses, wow, a guy who will actually play 2 choruses and get out and not make the rhythm section mad at him. Because that could happen in a heartbeat, you know. He's learning the tune on my time, you know. So Joy and I took that. We took my solo. And then we did the first chorus in unison. And then going out, it was Just Friends, and we when Warne played, we modulated with Warne playing in another key, and then we went into the same the second chorus that I played on that tape, harmonized, and at the end, Joey got really creative, and we had the last 4 bars. We went, man, a chord like that. Well, we overdubbed 4 other voices. So it was a saxophone group, you know, going on. And we listened to it after, and the energy was there, and it sounded so good. Man, it was great, you know. And that made the album. And then we did some Lenny Tristano things that were really, man, talk about challenging, Lenny Tristano's tunes. And so we did some of those, and then we were supposed, now it's time to do a ballad. We had 7 or 8 tunes already. And then we did, let's play Body and Soul. Yeah, Body and Soul. Frank Rossellino, Body and Soul, he called it Flesh and Bones. Frank was such a funny guy,
Yeah.
His energy was so funny. He got a record date going so hard. Nobody could play. The guys in the booth were on the floor. Nobody could play for 5 minutes. Frank was so funny. He when he got rolling, he was like a comedian on a roll, Anyway, so we start out, Lou was beautiful, but all the singers loved, he ended up, he played behind Tony Bennett a lot and Sarah Vaughan, and he was wonderful. He just knew he had, what it takes to work with a singer, and the energy and the wisdom of knowing the tune through the lyrics, because usually the lyrics could come first.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics could come first, and the tune was based on the lyrics. So pay heed to where things belong.
Absolutely. Do you know a lot of lyrics? Do you keep that?
I don't. I wish I did. Otherwise, I would become a singer. A singer? What?
Wait, so you started on violin,
Yeah.
right? And then did you immediately go to, I assume,
I went
clarinet?
to saxophone.
To tenor first?
Well, I walked into the room, and it's the teacher, Mr. Maxwell, bless your heart. He pulls out this horn. I said, I want to play this saxophone. Wonderful, my man, because I was already in the orchestra. He knew I was playing in his orchestra. I don't know, I wasn't playing in the first violins or maybe the second violins or whatever. I was in there, and he puts a mouthpiece on it, and because he was a saxophone player, it played. It was an old Martin, and it was amazing. School horns. You open a case of school horn, and it smells like a cat pooped in it. It's got that weird gonk to it, Anyway, when you get past that, you put the mouthpiece on it, and you just, violin was, man, finding pitch here, because there's no keys on it.
Mm-hmm.
You have your fingers and you boom, and then somebody smacks you on the ear with a ruler or something. No. Yeah. How's that? Okay. And so, and that's the 3 months, for a scale where all the notes are in the right place, and then, then this, and forget vibrato. Vibrato is it's an Olympic contest, first in vibrato right here, gold medal. Because I used the pressure method, but real violinists, you see the wrist move like this. And, Perlman, got to be one of my favorites now. I just love the way he plays it. So does he. Otherwise, he wouldn't sound that good, And
I saw a great little interview with him, I don't know, decades ago, and someone asked him, your pitch is impeccable. How did you practice your pitch? And he said, actually, my pitch is really bad. It's just that I adjust faster than everybody else.
He's a clever guy, isn't he? Yeah. I wonder if they heard me. Whoop. Got away with that,
So, and so you said it was tenor first, though, huh?
Yeah. Well, and the first day, Little Brown Jug, he says, bo, 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 ba, 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 da, 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 ba, 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 stop! get over here, sit down, he says. Everybody else is going, what's he doing? What's he doing? You know, I'm playing, you know. Yeah, it didn't take long. It wasn't like the violin at all. I mean, because I was so, you know, like, I couldn't wait to get that horn in my face, practice. And nobody could use the bathroom. I'm in there getting an echo off the shower, you know. Hey, you know.
Do you think it takes that, like, that intense interest to
I wish
to
I'd
go
have been
after
that
it?
way about writing music. Because it takes me a long time to put something down on paper because I don't have the skills, but I have the will to want to make this tune that's going around in my head and get it out of there and put it on paper so I can sleep.
Yeah, that's the feeling, right?
Yeah.
You got to get it out.
Yeah, you know. So, then there was the exposure to how do you become who you are? Well, I think naturally, now that I think about it, when I could tell kids if I'm in a situation where I'm actually talking to kids about playing the saxophone, which I did for many, many years up at jazz camp, because I got a whole room full of tenor saxophone players. And I'd say, you know, I think what we need here is a mouthpiece. And mouthpieces are very special made things that there's a small percentage of them that really do what's right for the horn and for you and actually don't inhibit you from projecting a sound of a saxophone. Because I listen to this guy and I say, you know, if you listen to Stan Getz, he has this furry sound with a big round furry sound, you know, and then you listen to somebody like Sonny Rollins, and it was really all business and like even harsh and demanding attention, and that's the way Sonny sounds. I mean, his articulation and everything. He took it. Boy, he took it out, man. He got it. I never heard anybody play so fast in all my life. You know, and then there's, you know, Zoot Sims, whose sound is a very happy sound, nice and edgy and everything. And all these mouthpieces are just slightly different. It's infinitesimal, the changes that you make in a mouthpiece that make it do this or that or this and that. And knowing about mouthpieces and mouthpiece makers, it takes them, they could become a brain surgeon in the amount of time it takes to finally make one that plays. You know, make a lot more money too. You know, important. But it's all the will to do something, and they do. And so,
how would you describe your sound?
Well,
or even what
I
your
think
concept
it was a culmination of all the things that I listened to, the influence of the sounds that I liked to play with, the projection. I don't like a funky sound, a guy who's a lot of air and the tone is very small and it doesn't project. And then there's guys who like rock and rollers who the reed sounds like it's a piece of metal and you could cut through steel with it, you know. And then you find something that you like, you know, and it becomes you, and everybody sounds like them. If you have another guy play my horn, he's not going to sound like me, he's going to sound like him, because it's the way the air goes through his throat, through his face, where his lungs are, you know, and how he holds the mouthpiece, how he holds the reed, you know. Trumpets, it's your face. It's how your face fits on that, and there's just as much nuance and thought and everything that goes into making a trumpet mouthpiece. I mean, how they standardize it, I don't know. I think it's slightly easier than the saxophone because the saxophone mouthpiece is spread out. You know, you have a tone chamber and then this and then and the tip. But this is a hole with a back bore.
Yeah.
And it's got to be like, wow, man, you know, who was a maker of mouthpieces you could start on and actually play? It was a Bach mouthpiece, right? Bach. But then it went, where did it go from there? I mean, what were other standard mouthpieces that everybody would play?
Well, I mean, then Monette.
Has,
you know, there have been so many developments through their office and GR mouthpieces. A lot of people are playing GR mouthpieces.
How about the old days?
You know,
Bix Beiderbecke.
Well, what would have Bix played? I'm not sure.
I don't know, man.
That's a good question.
You know,
I'm not sure.
I heard him play. He's actually getting
that picture of Louis Armstrong's mouthpiece, right, where he got the hacksaw and kind of so he could kind of fit it on his lips and it would stay on this old cornet. You know, but I don't know what those old horns would have been.
It's not his mouthpiece; it's the way he presents it. People say I did have some guy tell me when I was a kid playing a show, and we were living in the same place. I was doing some show for a summer up in Tahoe, probably with that Jerry Gray guy, that Glenn Miller guy. But when I was like 16, and he says, "Well, who's your favorite?" And I said, "Oh man, I like Lockjaw Davis, and I love Cannonball, blah blah blah." He says, I said, "Who's yours?" He says, "Louis Armstrong." And I had to think for a second, because this is jazz. The origin, jazz comes down the river. It's America's only true art form, and when you hear him play the things he plays, it all makes sense. And then when he sings, there isn't a singer in the world who wouldn't want to sing with him. Ask Ella Fitzgerald. She made 20 albums with him, right? And they complemented each other very well. Here's the perfect voice and somebody who can actually scat sing, and the soul of Louis Armstrong. Oh yeah, he said every once in a while, oh yeah. So I fell in love with that. I never got to meet him or play with him. That's probably one of the guys I never did. But I because I'm this old and he was that old, And anyway, so getting closer to the present, I guess. What you say? Well, is there a pinnacle? I don't know. I think the pinnacle for a jazz player is the next gig and the next energy that comes through you that makes you want to do this and do that, because you certainly don't want to. None of us would even think of going backwards. I mean, we're always looking to play something new, go forward into something. Unfortunately, I think that one of the commercialism of the record companies and things were responsible for, I think, not to worry about being politically correct here, but when that first album came out with, Lee Morgan, and it was all rock beat stuff. It was a crossover. Huh?
Talking about Sidewinder?
Sidewinder, yeah. that was the beat. Ba, ba, da, 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 you know. And so I thought that was, if it wasn't bad enough that the old time jazz, the Bill Haley and the Comets did a lot to take away the attention, or just as people would. And I always thought that in a way that it's people don't have to be intelligent or have good taste. It's just something that's there, and it goes in here and it comes out here, and they could go to work and make shoes or pound on fenders, and this stuff is playing in the background, and something they don't really take seriously. So fine, that's music for people like that.
Right.
So that, and there happens to be a lot more people like that than us, and boy, classical music happened to them.
Yep.
I mean, to the point where they give awards for music, and there used to be awards for great classical and great jazz, and no more do they do that. They're not on the show. The last time I was involved with something like that, or I actually placed any importance on that, was when I was making records. And if you've got a record that got a Grammy or was nominated for a Grammy, the only way you could capitalize it is be rich enough to buy $30,000 full-page ads in a newspaper and get a booking someplace and play and sell the records and get it and pay people to play it on the radio. Because payola has always been an effect. It's a fact of life. I get the first time I tried to, my first record out of the box, not the one that I did in Colorado Springs, and I still have, I remade it, and I have some,
really?
I have some for you of Pete Christlieb playing with a wonderful trio in Colorado Springs, and there's only 4 or 5 tunes on the album, but they were, we stretched out. And it's we called it Jazz City because the town we were playing with, there was maybe 2 people who showed up to listen to jazz, so we called it Jazz City.
I love it.
Yeah. So, but my first album, I was, oh man, this is great. It was after Steely Dan, because after the Steely Dan episode, I mean, we parted company right then and there after all the wonderful things that happened with them and what I did for them. When they were working, they decided they would produce us. Then something happened that really, it turned the boat over, and everybody splash and gone, because they decided that they were going to tie strings to these guys and do this and run a little puppet show. And it got away from all the things that we had put on in there. We were listening to our things and the things that we were doing, and the mood of the moment was that we had finally got somebody to put some backing in here and let us do what we want to do and turn the brains loose. And Warne and I were just, man, we were getting that thing happening, where we were just almost improvising in harmony, and the tempos and the things. I can't believe I played it that fast, or that we, like we started off on Body and Soul, and boom, and now Warne takes off. And it was like, God, I never knew it could be that good, I got goosebumps, and he was playing, and I'm supposed to play next. And I get a fit of brilliance. I looked at Lou, and he took it, and we took it out. I didn't play a note. The best solo I ever played in my life. It was gorgeous what he did. I wouldn't think of stepping in there and interrupting this conversation he was having with the piano player, because it was just us, just the piano and two horns. And Lou was beautiful, you know. He knew where he was going. And we listened to that, and the powers that be, did not think anything of it. Absolutely not. It was, to them, it was a blem. It was a mistake. Let's go on, and it's not going to be on the album. And, you know, so it's Warne, Marsh, and Pete Chrisley. So what if Warne has a solo all of his own? It's Warne, Martin, Pete Chrisley. I'm perfectly, if it was my album and he gets to play on it, I'm going to let him. Like, hey, I was on the Tonight Show for 20 years, and Johnny Carson loved musicians, and he was responsible for that band swinging every night, and he would not let anybody replace us with a monkey and an organ grinder and put the money in their pocket. He let that band play, and he'd have every great drummer, because he was a frustrated drummer, and he loved drums. He had Buddy Rich on all the time, and he had, you know, Louis Bellson. I got Louis on for one. But when it came to comedians, he was responsible for launching almost everybody you see for 20 years. They got their start on our show, because if you were on Johnny's show and you were good, everybody seemed to come up with a show of their own and a career of their own and gone on to bigger and better things, you know, or just bigger things, because of the generosity and the willingness of Johnny Carson to sit there and let them be funny, because he was naturally one of the funniest guys ever, because he had all this wonderful upbringing from all the greatest comedians, subtly funny comedians, and he took the best of that and took it someplace, and he was a wit. I mean, it was always, I got real messed up at a Christmas party once, a band party, and I'd said something really funny, and he cracked up at me, and he actually helped me to the car when I was a little bit tipsy, but he never forgot that I could be funny. So from that day on, I'm sitting here, and he's doing the monologue, and he's about ready to crack a joke, and he'd look over at me, and it's like, don't give me away. And we had this thing, you know, and I said, really don't. No, anyway, because he was friends with everybody. Especially, he let me play a couple of times. I got my a little feature on the show. It was great, you know. And if I had a record, I'd go up to the office, and it's Louis Bellson. I produced a record for Louis, and he says, wonderful, when can you have Louis here? He held up the record and everything. You know, an ad in those days was $17,000 a minute. And when we ended the show 20 years later, it was almost $100,000 a minute for advertising on the show. I did my best work behind Alpo dog food commercials. So what I'm saying is that all the other people who took over the Tonight Show, it wasn't the same, you know. Only if Robin Williams was there. The genius of Robin Williams. You couldn't stop him. He was, once he took off, boy, he was like, whew. We had Jonathan Winters and Robin Williams on the show, and nobody else could get on, and Johnny just sat there and watched them fly around the room like this, doing their thing, and then it was over, and it was brilliant. I think they reran it 1 million times, you know, And he thought nothing of it. So where is this thing like, okay, you guys, that's not valid. That was my point. It took an hour to do it. Man,
No,
are we done?
I
Have I wasted all the time on one thing?
no. This is so important and so good to hear.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so going from the Tonight Show to when that was over, life had to, for me, I put kids through school. I paid off a house. When I sold that house, I'm still sitting on some of the money that pays the bills up in Washington. I sold that house. It was one of the only things that I ever did. But, playing a horn, you make a lot of time you get the door, and the door doesn't put kids through college, So there had to be two of us working, to make all that happen. But it all came back when we sold that house for $1 million. Not quite $1 million, but it used to be a lot of money. Now you can pay that for an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah. Oh, it's nice. It overlooks the ocean, Yeah. So, it seems like it's gone full circle, and I'm up in Washington playing in clubs. If we could get a place that would hold a band, if I was playing with a small group, gigs would pay, depending on how many people came through the door, $60, $80 if you're lucky. But at this point in my life, if I had to depend on that for a living, I wouldn't be doing it. I'd be doing that to do something else.
Yeah.
So we're back to what my father used to do. He kept himself. He worked at 20th Century Fox. A lot of my teachers were in that orchestra. The guy who was the clarinet teacher was Russ Cheever, was his stand partner, and he played soprano and clarinet, first clarinet in the Fox orchestra. And one of the violin players was my violin teacher. And interesting, my son and my grandson are firemen in L.A.
Is that right?
Wonderful career, the tightest bunch of people, a community of love and relationships, professional and otherwise. They're brothers. They are a band of brothers. They are, and it's wonderful to see somebody happy in what they do. They didn't want to play. I mean, they tried to play, and then they decided they didn't want to play. So fine. What did I say? Hey, do what you want to do. Whatever you want. So anyway, I forget where we were, but the important thing was Dad kept himself busy with chamber music, and all of a sudden, when I was a youngster, Igor Stravinsky was in our living room. He was instrumental, and Dad was very much into modern. Eventually, ended up in Schoenberg and 12-tone music. And improvising to me, I have no aspirations of trying to do that. I'm too set on my ways to want to get that far away from the center of what I've been involved with all my life. I will harmonically change my feelings about things. One of the things about playing saxophone, which I don't see here in this college, it's amazing. I don't hear a one of the most infectious, contagious kind of things is the Michael Brecker influence that I see in so many look-alike contests, because although it is in itself, it's amazing, and I can't tell you how many different scales it's all based on, and all the theories and compound this, and hey, it's amazing. I take from it what I want. My first teacher was actually the second teacher. My first teacher was studying bassoon with my father, so he could become a doubler, because the bassoon double for a studio woodwind player would automatically double your worth in this business and make you a lot richer. And the only thing is, it's total dedication. It's the most imperfect compared to a saxophone. It's you really have to have a sense of humor and a lot of time, and you have to be good with your hands, because you make your own reeds. I have trouble buying reeds today now, because reeds are just not what they used to be. But that's another show all by itself. Families quit making reeds because mom and dad did this, and I don't want to do this anymore. So now all the great, and it all came from France. The soil and the cane and everything came from France, because that's where the best conditions were for the healthy cane. And then they took the cane and they put it in bags, and like Old South, like curing tobacco. They put it in a burlap sack and they threw it in a barn. They let it sit there and cure for 5 years. Now the molecular structure is this. It's become like this. See, so if you get a reed off the machine or everything that hasn't been, like seasoned, in 3 seconds the water hits it, and in 10 seconds you can read a newspaper through it, because and it lasts for half a tune. It's so, that's a sign of the times. Like coming here, I had boxes and boxes of these reeds I was with the same company that my dad was with, but he bought his cane from them. They imported the cane, and he bought it, and it came. It's a cylinder cane. It's got a hole in the center, and the stock is hollow, and then we take the stalks and cut them to length, and I split them 4 ways, so you get 4 reeds out of one cylinder, and then it becomes a blank, and it looks like a bassoon reed if you took it apart and spread it out like that. Now you put it back together again, and you wrap it, and you become a craftsman. And you have to do this, peep, peep, peep. No, it's not there. Peep, 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 peep. Ooh, yeah, peep, peep. Yeah, and don't go too far, and then you go this and that. The romance of finding out yourself how good you're going to be at this, or whatever. But he did that, and then we had chamber music, and then it got really deep. I mean, then came Boulez, and then the shocker of all time was Stockhausen. Wow. I mean, 164th notes, like that. You look at the page, and these guys sat down to play it the first day. Here he comes. The man comes through the door, and he puts his music on the stand. After that rehearsal, 3 guys out of 5, I think, were gone. I'm sorry. I have a life to live. I have a family. I have a lawn. I come from a family. No, where did I heard that before? So the guys who stuck it out, oh man, the most courageous, most incredible musicianship to make that work, to play it, just to play it.
Yeah.
And then what do you got? I don't know. I laughed so hard they threw me out. But when they started playing, I thought, oh, I felt, and they said, and I picked me up. I went through out the door and locked the door. Get him out of here, because we're serious. Oh, so next thing I know, I got a saxophone and I'm doing my thing, and here I am now, 70 years later. It was fun. Just to be able to know that there's going to be an opportunity to play, and then I sat down and I went through. I have boxes and boxes of reeds. The company got taken over, and I'm no longer a representative of the company. We don't need you, and so fine. I've got my reeds, whatever I got here. So I went through a lot of them. I got my customers right here and here and here and here. And the concerts today, right? I got 2 shots at it. If one doesn't get there, the other one is. But at least I got that, But these days, you got to plan ahead with a reed business.
Can't wait to hear this concert.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I brought some music that is challenging for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
The first rehearsal was, oh my God, ooh,
I think I gotta let you go because you got to go to this rehearsal.
Yeah.
So
is it? Oh, that's right. It's.
I think so.
Yeah.
But Pete, I could just we need to do about 5 of these shows
yeah,
to tell
we got to
some
get
stories.
to it.
I want you to know how beloved you are by all of us. All of us, you're such a musical hero for all of us because of what you represent and because you share your heart every time you play the saxophone. And I know a lot of people are just gonna love getting to hear you talk about these things on this podcast.
My wife wants to know if we will have a way to, or is there a copy of it or something?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. I'll
well, I'm in trouble now.
Share all of these things with you so you
just-
can check it all out.
I was never here.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. My love to your family and everything.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll get to see each other. And not too distant in the future.
I sure hope so.
I
sure hope so.
Yeah.
I know, I'm in LA, 3-4 times a year.
And I'm not
doing
there
this and that.
anymore.
Oh yeah, of course you're up in Seattle.
Yeah.
I'm up there every once in a while too.
Yeah.
Are you
It's
in
cold
Seattle?
there now.
Or
It's
are you
warm
in...
here and it's really cold there.
Yeah, of course.
Ooh,
Of course.
ooh.
And it's gonna get colder.
Yeah. It's so cold that clarinet that I buried in the backyard stopped squeaking.
Out of the misery.
I did. One last thing. My first teacher, Russ Cheever, wonderful. He was the soprano player in the Hollywood Saxophone Quartet, which was worldwide, like one of the best. The musicianship was unbelievable, impeccable. I haven't got my first job, and I took the job, but they said, well, you have to play flute and clarinet. I didn't own either. And it's common now, You train kids. If you want to make a living, you got to spread out a little bit. Us woodwind players, I couldn't get a job unless you played this and that. And it was that way in the early in the olden times. It was, you see pictures of the old bands, and guys had all these instruments in front of them and a violin sitting there.
Yeah, right.
A violin. They had to play violin too.
Yeah.
Well,
and a tuba in the
that
back.
still didn't stop me from giving up the violin and going on the road with a band. And Mom and Dad are saying, bye, but we're making payments on the violin still. You know, and, well, Russ, my teacher, first lesson, I got myself a clarinet and everything. So that's just what you have to do. Put the reed on here and peep, peep, you know, put the reed there and put this together like that. Now, wait a minute, he says, do you ever make a highball? And I said, what's that? He says, oh, come on in the kitchen. So I said, bourbon has, try that. Oh, boom. 3 of those. Now we're sitting around laughing. The clarinet's sitting here. And his wife comes home. And says, oh, hi. Well, listen, now remember what I said, and I'll see you next week. So the first lesson was, yeah, that was the first lesson. Boy, I said, oh, this clarinet's going to be great.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Oh, was I wrong?
I would love to hear how the flute lesson went.
Yeah, well, I don't remember taking any until later because it was, you know, I think I just kind of uglied my way into it, you know. But there was there's great, Sheridan Stokes is responsible for, his father was a bass clarinet player and sat next to my dad on a lot of
wow.
In orchestra.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the guy who was sitting next to me on the Tonight Show for 20 years, who wrote some of the music at John Bambridge, his father, Bambridge, was a tuba player in the orchestra, and my dad knew him too. You know, amazing. At any rate, that's how we got started. Now I'm trying to stay out of that bar. You know, getting. No, man, when you get my age, you know, you gotta cool it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to the gym to
you look
keep my feet. As my best friend ended up in a nursing home, and he didn't last long because he didn't do the things he should have to, you know, when, you know, 90s really, if you have done your work and everything and you can walk around, as long as you can walk around, you'll be able, if you pass away, probably better at home than in one of those places, you know, because the food's horrible.
It is. It's the whole thing.
There's an incentive right there. You smell the food, you say, oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah, got to exercise in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want you to be late.
Stay there.